Good evening, student. Ninth Standard Social Science, History Unit 9, The Age of Revolution, Lesson Continuation. Students, so far we discussed about Introduction, American War of Independence, Colonies of European Powers, Brutians, Quakers, the New Amsterdam, New York, Plantation and the Slave Labours, Increasing Incidence of Taxation, Native Americans, the Sugar Act, Stamp Act, Boston Tea Party, American War of Independence, Continental Congress and Second Continental Congress, Battle of Bunker Hill. Now we discussed about Declaration of Independence. In January 1776, an anonymous pamphlet, unknown bid notice under the title Common Sense was published. It was authored by Thomas Paine, who had recently migrated to America from England. It attacked the allegiance to the complete independence. After much debate, the Declaration of Independence, drafted by the Thomas Jefferson, who adopted by the Congress on July 4, 1776. This day is celebrated by the American as Independence Day. The war between Native American and the British people. On 2nd July 1776, the British and the general who attempt to regain what they had lost in previous war. Washington was forced to evacuate Long Island. The main American army managed to reach Pennsylvania, while Howe waited in New York for the entire winter to pass. Washington made a dragging attack on Christmas night at Trenton. British forces were defeated in Princeton. French alliance. In 1777, the British attempt to splitting the colonies into two by a campaign from the north failed. On 6th February 1778, France and America signed two treaties by which France recognized the United States of America and offered trade concession. By June 1778, England and France were at a war. Now, France in the side of America. Victory at Yorktown. In September, Washington attacked Yorktown with a combined American and French troops. On 19th October 1781, Cornwall surrendered. In 1783, the Peace of Paris was signed. The military band played the tune "The World Turned Upside Down" as the British force departed from Yorktown in 1781. Result. That is a result of the American Revolution. The immediate result of the war was America's independence. The Declaration of Independence 1776 the state that all men are born equal. In 1777, nearly all the colonies had a written constitution. This constitution protected individual right, freedom of press, and freedom of religion. It was later incorporated in the American Constitution. Lefebvre who fought the British and Washington side through to the conclusive battle at Yorktown in 1781. Later, during the French Revolution, served the French National Guard as its commander. The French Revolution. The French Revolution exploded in 1789. France, before the Revolution of 1789, had enjoyed unchallenged power for nearly 140 years. Louis XIV and his great palace at Versailles had symbolized royal absolutism and the greatness of France. Louis XVI had summoned the Estates General in May 1789. This body consisted of the representative of three classes or three estates, as they were called: the clergy and noble and commons. Clergy, that is including men and women for religious, those who are engaged in the religious duty. Causes for the outbreak of the French Revolution. Political causes. Louis XV succeeded his great grandfather Louis XIV and reigned for 59 years. In 1774, he was succeeded by his grandson Louis XVI. He was entirely under the influence of his wife Mary Antoinette, who believed more than the king into divine theory of kingship, the theory that king was representative of God on earth, and therefore all his action he was accountable only to God, not to anybody else. Both king and queen were hated by the people. Economic causes. On the eve of French Revolution, France was going through a period of economic crisis. The French treasury was bankrupt because of its involvement in the 7 Years' War that ended in defeat. The luxurious lifestyle of the royal and, and nobles in Versailles court, that is Versailles Palace, in contrast to grinding poverty of the common people, made the people accept the new ideology of French philosophers of the 18th century. Social causes. The condition of the already improvised peasant worsened due to the series of bad harvest. It resulted in the rise of the price of bread. The peasant of the countryside, that is village side, and the laborers and the artisan of the towns were worst affected. There were hunger right at the beginning of the reign of Louis XVI. They were followed later by fresh peasant rising. A vast number of people had become professional beggars in France. It was officially declared in 1777 that there were 11 lakh of beggars in France. The peasants were hunger not only for food but were also hunger for land. They hated the noble and the clergy because they enjoyed many privileges, notably exemption from taxation. Inspiration from French philosophers. There were many notable thinkers and writers in France in 18th century. The most famous writer of the time on rationalistic and scientific subject was Voltaire, Montesquieu, and Rousseau. His ideas played an important part in preparing the people of France for the Great Revolution. Rousseau, the famously said that his book Social Contract, man is born free, but it is everywhere in chain. Montesquieu, who wrote the Persian letters and the spirit of the laws, also defended the liberty. An encyclopedia also came out in Paris about this time, and this was full of articles by Diderot and Jean d'Alembert. These philosophers and thinkers opposed to religious intolerance and political and social privileges succeeded in provoking large number of ordinary people to think and act. Inspiration of American War of Independence. The American Republic inspired the French Revolution and provided them with a model. The American causes against the British directly affect the French Revolution in two ways. One, it cost the French treasury heavily, and the other, the French like Lefebvre, who participated in the American War of Independence, came back with the democratic ideals and played an active role in the French Revolution. Causes of the French Revolution: the fall of Bastille and tennis court oath. The critical moment came after the king shut out the commoner and the later assembled in the tennis court and took an oath that they would not disperse until they found a way out their problem. The king tried to use force, but his own soldier refused to obey his order. The fall of Bastille as a prison, was the first great turning point in the revolution. 14th July is celebrated as the National Day of France to this day, that is, fall of Bastille. The the revolutionists, they stormed the Bastille prison and set free all the prisoners. In 14th July 1789, National Assembly. This assembly comprised moderate liberal who wanted a constitution and the model of England and America. Their leader was Mirabeau. The assembly was controlled by the middle class, and there was and representation to the peasant and the common masses. The assembly brought about many other reforms. The vast property of such was confiscated by the state. A new division of France was made into 80 departments. The old feudal court were replaced by better law court. March to Versailles. Versailles is a palace. However, the crisis intensified in Paris due to the high price of bread. Riots broke out. The women of Paris marched to Versailles to demand bread from the king. The crowd was in an aggressive mode. The crowd demanded the bread be provided to them. The royal family, including king, was mobbed. They forced the king and the royal family to them with to Paris. Flight to Varennes. The king's position was increasingly shaky. He was not able to reconcile to the legalization passed by the National Assembly. He decided to escape from Paris, dressing himself as a alt. He escaped along with his family to Varennes, a border town. However, he was recognized by a postman, arrested by the National Guard, and brought back to Paris. From then onwards, he remaining in the Paris virtually a prisoner. Grundians, and Jacobians. The moderate liberal wanted to keep the king as a limited monarch. They called themselves party of the Grundians. The hardcore Republican were the Jacobians. All the king and emperor of Europe who were frightened by these mass oppress were ranged against revolutionary France. Constitution of 1791. In September 1791, the National Assembly framed the first constitution. It provided for a constitutional monarchy. The, the franchise was limited to those who own a certain amount of property. The common people who had stormed the Bastille were disillusioned with the development and found another outlet for their revolutionary energy. This was the Paris Commune. The Commune was in direct touch with the mass, that is, people, emigres, and the Revolutionary War. In August 1792, ordered and attacked the King's Palace. The people of Paris agreed by the action of the Swiss guard in shooting and killing many of them. In 3 days, from September 2nd, about 1,500 suspected dissidents were put into prison. After a trial, they were killed, and this incident called the September Massacre. And September 21, 1792, the National Convention met. National Convention and beginning of the Reign of Terror in June 1793, July 1794. The first action of National Convention was to proclaim the formation of Republic. The trial of Louis XVI was taken up immediately, and he was condemned to death. He was guillotined. Danton, Herbert, and Robespierre. The convention created a new republican calendar for France. All reference to religion found in the old calendar name were deleted. The republican calendar was abandoned by Napoleon on 1st January 1806. A month later, 22 Grandians dispute of the convention were tried by the Revolutionary Tribunal and sentenced to death, thus the beginning of Reign of Terror. Danton, Herbert, and Robespierre emerged as the main leader of the National Convention. Danton and others protest against Robespierre for sending too many people to the guillotine, but they were also executed. And 27 July 1794, the convention suddenly turned against Robespierre and his supporter. The next day, Robespierre was sent to the guillotine. Guillotine is a machine to kill the people. In October 1795, the convention broke up and the directory of the 5 members assumed power. The directory was short-lived and was replaced by the consulate with the as a Napoleon as the first consulate. The consulate was abolished by Napoleon Bonaparte, who later crowned himself as the Emperor of France. The republican idea and the principle of liberty, equality, fraternity continue to influence the generation to come. Impact of French Revolution. The French Revolution had many lasting results. It marked the end of the system of absolute monarchy in France. A revolution upheld the theory of people's sovereignty and laid the foundation for the birth of liberal constitutional government in Europe. Liberty, equality, fraternity became the watchword of freedom loving people all over the world. And inspired many later day political movement for the establishment of liberal democracy in Europe and everywhere. Okay, student. So far we discussed the foundation of European colonies in America, the exploitative policy of England and birds from taxation in the colonies. The Britain recognized the independence of the United States of America. The role of French philosopher and the outbreak of French Revolution. Liberty, equality, and fraternity continue to inspire many political movements all over the world. Thank you, student. Please follow the assignment given in the PDF. Thank you.